My favorite is definitely data integration. Yeah. So when and I say that because for me data is really the blood of the system.
Hello, I'm Ed Reed, editor of E-FWD, and I'm here today with Federico Tondi from IFS. Federico, hi, how are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for having me, Ed.
Perfect, good. Well, I'm glad you're here. Listen, we spoke earlier about this idea of integration, right? And I think obviously we are always thinking about how to do things in the energy system more efficiently, companies particularly. What should we be thinking about in terms of integration, Federico?
Yeah, great question. It's one of my favorite topics, to be honest. And as you probably know, we've talked about this a few times. When in the context of energy transition, and the first thing that comes to mind is really the creation of new energy systems, or at least injecting a different energy mix into the energy system. And we see this with the big projects that are obviously going on in the UK. And even more so with extra large projects that are going on in regions like Middle East, for instance, where there's a big shift and focus towards this kind of options. So in this context, integration really means creating an intelligent network of entities, let's say, within these extra large capital projects. And the network is basically made of the companies that are involved. And these companies obviously have different roles. They have probably different stance. You have investments from typical oil and gas super majors. They want to be involved in the energy transition and maybe, create new pathways for their business as well. And also many startups that obviously have a lot of energy, in this case stamina, right, to be involved with these kind of things, maybe bring innovation to the industry. And often what they lack of, very, very rightly so, is the infrastructure to run their own operations in the right way. So integration from a digital technology perspective is really the key sort of, let me call it almost the glue of this type of projects, and the glue between these actors, let's say. And at IFS, we are perfectly equipped for that, because our spectrum of solutions and let's say different platforms are all based on one single sort of underlying technology, but they serve a very different part of the industry, or the value chain, or the supply chain, if you want to call it that way.
And so I suppose that's the big picture. And so why is it that companies should be thinking about integration, right? Thinking about these kind of projects, thinking about how to tie these things together. How does it actually work?
Yeah, so the reason why they should go in that direction, reasons, in fact. So first of all, this element of capital investment, I will say. So capital investment by definition requires capital. That's easy. Requires risk management, requires a very thorough decision-making process. So first of all is choosing the right thing to do, the ones that are viable, the ones that are sustainable financially and operationally. The ability to make the right decisions, first of all, is critical, because we know, and especially if you look at probably the recent past, as the digital transformation came into the picture of energy transition, we saw many projects that started with lots of hopes, right, and very good intentions, but often they come to a point where they are suddenly not viable, or they become too complex, too expensive. So ultimately they have to be reconsidered. Yeah, so I would say the first point is really related to making sure that we don't get to that situation anymore. We can't even afford that anymore. If you think about the macroeconomic climate, I mean, sadly mentioning interest rates, right? That affect people, but even more so affect businesses and affect investments and affect the ability to, attract investment from the market without a clear pathway towards how do I make sure that I get my money back, or I even more than what I put in the first place.
And so I suppose thinking about those kind of the challenges, I suppose it's important to think, isn't it, about how you overcome the problems of working in sort of existing systems, right? And it feels like that may prove a challenge to kind of bring together different companies to think about things in the same way.
Yeah, it's this is effectively in the technology business, especially in what we call the ERP business, as in the enterprise resource planning applications that are nowadays really the heart of how company run their operations in a obviously virtual way, right? Not in the physical world, but that ultimately all reconduct the operations to their financial records and the supply chain management, inventory management, so all the elements related to that. I was saying it's quite a critical point, because modernization is effectively often stalling because of complexity of going from old to new. So one of the key challenges, and that's also why I like this new projects, but I come to that in a second. One of the key challenges for companies that are embracing new ventures is really that of leaving the past, to the past, and try to create what we call the greenfield approach in their new ventures, which basically means not trying to port what they used to do, the systems that they run, the processes that they have, the old data models that are inefficient and not tuned to support innovation anyway, instead of trying to use those into new ventures. That's why it comes pretty, not easy, but at least it's more like the immediate choice for anything that is new projects, where you say, if we create a new entity, a new consortium, a standalone project that really can start from scratch, that's much easier to use modern solutions rather than try to retrofit old ones or try to improve old ones into something new.
And so I suppose, picking up on that kind of question around sort of decision making, what's the sort of, if you had to pick sort of one big question that your potential clients are asking you, what is it that people want to know when they're thinking about this kind of integration idea?
So only one. Okay, let's
pick a favorite.
Well, my favorite is definitely data integration. Yeah. So when and I say that because for me data is really the blood of the system, right? And there is no way to be efficient, make the right decisions, optimize operations, but also optimize usage, consumption of energy, as an example, or create a more sustainable overall ecosystems without the right data. And this is nothing new. Yeah, probably I don't want to bore people with something they've been hearing for 15 years. We already passed the data era. Now we are in the AI era, right? So this is yesterday news. But the reality is we started this type of challenge. We started tackling the challenge at company level, so at single entity level. It was hard enough to solve in companies that have multi-business, or let's say they grew organically, yeah, by, for instance, acquisitions as an example, or mergers, where every entity had a different system, different data models, different way to process data or generate data. And so it's been hard enough to converge for a single sort of entity when it comes to to their data strategy. And now we see that this type of challenge is much bigger, and it's surfaced even more when you look at integration of a supply chain. So obviously integration of an industry. So the ability to use a single data model across, you know, as many companies as we have within an ecosystem, that's really the way to allow everybody to be efficient and everybody to leverage efficiency of others. I say, I have to use the example of AI. Again, I don't want to, go mainstream. Exactly, yeah. But I do have to use the example because AI, aside of what it does, but from a technology vendor's perspective, is a very sort of difficult matter. And the reason is, in order for companies to develop AI models and develop solutions that are essentially leveraging AI in many different ways, can be embedded in their systems, can be agentic, can be decision-making support, so business AI, etc. The key factor that allows companies to undertake these developments is the ability to keep everything as standard as it can be. And when I say everything, I really mean operations, I mean processes, but more importantly, data models. Because if you can't train a system with a data model that is standardized, that stays the same all the time, that doesn't have exceptions, as we know in many companies, exceptions are actually more common than standard. Then it's impossible to create any AI solution that doesn't constantly require someone to fix it. So now, again, if you expand this to an industry level, or let me say supply chain, which, for instance, we recently acquired a company that looks after supply management optimization, as an example, and we have an agentic platform that supports that, on an even broader scale. The Loops is called our new agentic platform. So that's really where you can simply create an AI layer that serves the whole industry. That leveraging the same data model in every company, you can essentially democratize AI use cases and make sure that everything that happens goes from beginning to end, everything that needs to happen. We talk a lot about automation of processes. Agentic AI, in a way, in a very simplified way, can be seen as almost like the ultimate automation capability, if you want. And when you have agents that are able to communicate with each other across companies, that's really when you start having a system that is self-managed, through technology.
And so thinking about the future of integration, where is it going?
Yeah, that's a good. It's a good question, and with that, I have to uncover the, typical elephant in the room, because integration obviously is based on technology. We talked a lot about that, up to now. Technology in this case requires a lot of data, and automation, AI, require a lot of computational power, especially in the in training mode. Yeah, so the training of AI is potentially more expensive from computational power perspective than actually running, and all this comes at a cost for the energy system, which is the energy itself. We talked about before data centers. We talked about the sort of train that left the station. So we can't really stop this anymore. Probably we don't want to stop it anyway, because innovation and evolution doesn't reverse itself. However, we have to consider very carefully how to essentially engineer and size up this kind of extra large projects and new systems that ultimately require a lot of energy before they can effectively give it back. So I think it's the direction of travel is clear. I can see why UK is basically at the forefront of this, because it's probably one of the countries that have the highest chance of success, given the position, the geography, the availability of natural sources, the advance in technology itself, the ability to attract investment from everywhere in the world. And so I would say this is probably the place to be. I think we need to be very bold, which is what we like. At the same time, don't forget that money attracts money. So smaller success, maybe with a more contained type of scenario, will enable to test and learn first of all, and will also convince those that are still waiting a little bit to see who blinks first before making their decision on what to do.
Perfect. Federico, thank you.
Thanks, Ed.